Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this, our May 27th, 2024 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including the Season 2 premiere of My Adventures with Superman, the animated series. We're going to be talking about those two episodes, pulling them apart, giving our reviews of those two episodes. We're also going to be talking about what's happening else in the world of Superman. Not too much on the movie front this week or otherwise in the television side of things. But we're also going to be doing our costume analysis. This week we're doing the Superman Returns costume with Brandon Routh. We're going to be doing the end of month segment with the super secret soundbite. We've got the fan favorite question and so much to get through tonight. And joining me are my two good friends, Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Welcome, guys. Hey, Michael.
Hey,
Hey, Mark.
how's it going?
Hello, Steve.
Well, I'm doing well, guys, and thank you to our live listeners who are tuning in right now with us, joining us for this next hour, and thank you to our sponsors, John Patrick Van Pelt, Tina Murray, and Douglas Meacham. We appreciate your support, and you can join those fine folks and be a supporter of Superman Homepage by clicking the join button there on YouTube. There are different levels of membership with different levels of perks, or you can go to patreon.com/Superman Homepage and give us a little tip, buy us a coffee, whatever it might be that you want to help support the show. We're only too glad to receive any help we can get. Your help has made me improve my sound quality because you guys have been mentioning that the sound has been a little bit low in recent weeks, and I've purchased a new microphone specifically for this show for you guys so that you can hear my dulcet tones a little bit clearer. But hopefully it's all sounding really good. But yeah, so it's been an interesting week. Not too much going on. What about you guys? What's happening in the world of Bailey and Lax? I see, Michael, you're back in your old digs, and Mark, you're back in an undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It hasn't been a great week. Been a little sick, so
Oh, that's no good. Well, I hope you feel better
yeah.
soon.
Yes, I feel better now.
The other room's occupied right now, so I had to kind of be in this one, but hopefully it won't be too bad.
No, all good. All right, so yeah, Button saying nice sounds good. So thank you for that vote of confidence on the new microphone and new audio setup. All right, we're going to get into tonight's topic, and as I mentioned, well, actually, before we do get into My Adventures with Superman, let me start by saying that next week we will be joined by special guest Josephine Campbell, the co-producer of My Adventures with Superman. She was part of our show back for season 1 and of the animated series, and spoke to us at length about the fantastic animated series that is airing on Adult Swim. And she'll be back next week, Monday, June 3rd, to discuss season 2 of My Adventures with Superman with us. It should be an awesome show. Not only do we have the second season of the animated series, but we've also got a comic book that will be out as well. So there's heaps to talk about with Josephine next week. So make sure you join us at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on Monday, June 3rd, for our exclusive interview with Josephine Campbell. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into. I'm assuming we've all watched the first two episodes of
I
My
have
Gen-
not gotten.
Oh,
It's okay though.
okay.
Spoil
Sorry.
away. Spoil away. It's okay. I
Sorry
haven't got
about
it.
that,
I
Mark.
didn't get a chance.
All
That's
good.
okay.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, it's airing at the same time, pretty much all over the majority of the world, as far as Australia, Europe, London, England, Canada. You can pretty much watch it at the same time, so you're not going to get too many spoilers if you are watching it on time. So, Michael, your initial thoughts of the first two episodes?
I really enjoyed them. I thought the little nods to past Superman things. There's a fun little poem that Clark writes, or and starts to read, but is stopped. I chuckled at that. It's I said last season that this feels like what would happen if we lived in a reality where Superman didn't exist for like 20 years, like it disappeared completely from the pop culture, and then suddenly it gets unearthed, and people who were fans of it when they were kids are rebranding it for a new audience. Uh, they're continuing with the story from last season. It was interesting to learn a few things about Krypton. I'm kind of glad that Jarrell was not speaking Esperanto this time, because I was getting a little sick of not understanding him. And like the first episode was really emotional, really sweet, some really good Superman action. The second one, is setting up some tension between Lois and Clark, and him trying to find Kara, which I mean, I knew we knew that Supergirl was coming, but I'm still kind of surprised that they're pulling the trigger on that in the second season. But maybe they didn't think they were going to get a third season, so you do what you can. You do what you can when you can. I liked the where Sam Lane ends up at the end of the episode, and where he's going to be staying is kind of sitcomish, but that kind of fits with the overall tone of the series. And there's a thing that really surprised me, that in the show they were trying to hide that it was Lex Luthor, but the trailer kind of blew that wide open. That was spoiled already, so that was kind of one of those things where I was just like, okay, maybe it's for people who don't watch trailers. But no, we've got a Lex Luthor, so it's all. I also liked that Jimmy now has his own team, which is basically the Newsboy Legion and Steve Lombard. So that was funny. And did you either of you watch Ted Lasso?
Oh yeah, loved it.
No.
Okay, did you see Trent Krim in the Daily Planet?
Yes.
I've just seen like clips and clips and clips of that on TikTok, and then I'm looking at the dude in the background. I'm like, that looks like Trent Krim from Ted Lasso. What the heck is that all about?
100%. That was definitely. I will have to ask Josephine about that next week.
Yeah,
but that was definitely a Ted Lasso Krim. Yeah, with the hair and the white streak in the hair or whatever it was. But it looked exactly like him. But yeah, I mean, my reviews are up on the website for these two episodes. And did you feel, Michael, that it had more of a serious tone? I mean, there were still the comedic moments in there, like, the poem that you mentioned that Clark tries to come up with, and he's freaking out about Valentine's Day and that, but it just seemed to strike a more serious tone, especially in regards to what is happening with the inmates and, the testing that's going on that Amanda Waller's doing. And it just seemed to, I mean, it's still very much the same tone as season one in many respects, but just seemed a little more dramatic.
yeah, especially with that second episode. I mean, the first episode was emotional because you're having Clark deal with meeting his father really for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of fun. There was a lot of goofiness, and there was a lot of really good action in that one. But yeah, the idea that Task Force X was just kidnapping people and experimenting on them was just like, okay, that's a little dark, but sometimes shows do that. I mean, if you look at kind of like just about any TV series, the second season they always kind of like trip things up a little bit and go a little darker or go a little more serious, kind of mixing it up. And it's the Empire Strikes Back type approach to storytelling, where your middle act, which would be this season, is going to be a little darker, so that maybe if they do get a third season, they can have that triumph where they overcome a setback, if there's going to be a setback. I've only seen the first two episodes, but yeah, I'd agree with that.
Now we're also I didn't feel like Lois had a lot to do in the first episode. She was the catalyst for them finding out about the meteoroid, which was it wasn't a meteorite, it wasn't an asteroid, it was a meteoroid. But beyond that, it was very much Clark focused. It was very much about Amanda Waller and Sam Lane, and also Jimmy Olsen. And at the rate that Jimmy is spending his money, I don't think his millions are going to last.
Okay, so how expensive was that boat? If they were just renting a boat, like did he buy the boat? Because he spent like $1 million on that thing. So
Well,
yeah,
even with the private jet, he rebranded it, so it's not like he just rented it to
yeah.
fly them there to the Antarctic. It was he had his own branding on the tail of the jet, so I'm guessing Jimmy's just splurging him, and that money counter is just ticking down over and over, and he's just like he's going through it at a pretty quick click.
I was kind of amused by that. I'm assuming at this point that that's going to be a running gag throughout the season, and maybe by the end of the season he's out of money again. So he's just going to have to go back to working at the Daily Planet as he was.
Yeah, no, that was funny, and I love the part where Perry killed himself laughing at Jimmy struggling with interns who are disobeying him. It was just like Perry found that it really tickled his funny bone that
Oh,
the shoe was now on the other foot.
yeah, if you've ever been in a position where you're managing people and one of them is constantly giving you a hard time, and then you watch them, I kind of had this happen to me a couple of times where people that were associates under me uh, either were promoted within the company or went to another company and were elevated in their position, and they come back and they're complaining about people doing the exact same things that they did to me. I would just sit there and laugh too. It's a satisfying feeling.
Now, in the comments, Mind the Gap saying two funny bits were Jarrell giving Clark a hard time about his romantic choices, and that seemed to be a running gag throughout that whole episode, where Cat Grant was giving him a hard time about his romantic choices for Valentine's Day, saying that he had to do some grand romantic gesture, and then even the guy at NASA, Lois's friend, who was
Hank.
taking his Hank was taking his wife to was taking his wife to
Yeah.
Paris for a grand romantic gesture. And then even Jarrell was like giving him a hard time about dating a woman with, human no powers, that kind of thing.
Him. Like, you brought your mate who has no powers and isn't Kryptonian with you. It's just like it was. It's basically like, what if you had Space Dad from Man of Steel, but we're gonna play it a little lighter,
Mm,
just as
exactly.
emotional, just a little bit more jokey, but not in a bad way.
And then even Lois got a hard time from her dad about bringing Superman to his rescue. So it's just like neither of them can win with their fathers. They're both having a tough time. But yeah, and then the other funny part was Amanda Waller's morning routine. We've seen Clark waking up, turning his alarm clock off a number of times in his apartment, but Amanda Waller's wake up routine was a little bit freaky.
Yeah, Rachel. We were watching it with dinner tonight, and Rachel's like, "Is she doing self affirmations right when she wakes up?" And that's a really different take on Amanda Waller, because usually Amanda Waller, if you when she was originally introduced into the comics, she was no nonsense and in charge from the very beginning. There was no self doubt, and you had that in the Justice League series as well. That version of Amanda Waller was pretty straight ahead, and didn't maybe feel the need to do self affirmations. But this one, she's obviously got some emotional issues that the past versions didn't, uh, which was and the cool thing about that is we see her getting ready, and then she sits down with Sam,
Yeah.
and like, I was just like, okay, that's kind of a clever way of introducing where everything is. And to your point of Clark getting more screen time and then Lois doing more in the second episode, that's a kind of a nice mirror that they were both dealing with their fathers. The
Hmm.
only thing that kind of bugged me, and it was a small thing, but and I get where they were going from a writing standpoint of what they were trying to make the audience feel. But Clark kept saying, you sent me here alone, and I'm like, you have the Kents. They're your parents. You yes, you may be the last Kryptonian, and I could see, feeling a certain kind of way about that, but it's not like you were alone. It's not like you raised yourself.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, so
so
so good. Also, an interesting, there's while Clark and Lois are obviously a couple here and romantically involved and seem to be on a good thing. It's not without its tension because Clark reveals that he has a cousin out there and he wants to find her, and Lois is like, "You want to bring another Kryptonian in?" and so he doesn't reveal to her that he's got the tracking beacon, and he doesn't wants to tell her, but doesn't get the opportunity to do so. And so there's that whole thing again about keeping secrets that could come back to bite him in the backside. But there's always going to be something that's going to be a little bit tricky between them.
yeah, the thing that kind of bugged me about that is it was revealed in the episode that the ship itself, there was no invasion by Kryptonians.
No.
It was a scout ship basically that was running
Mm-hmm.
on autopilot. So it's not like Kryptonians were coming to invade the Earth, which I
Not
was kind of happy
originally,
about.
yeah, but obviously Lois was talking or thinking about the invasion that was coming at the time on Thanksgiving Day when they were at the Kent farm,
Yeah,
and they were about to, and Zod or whoever it is was about to invade, come through that portal. So there was that that she has to worry about. But yeah, you're right. 22 years ago, or whatever it was just a scout ship. It wasn't an invasion. But also interesting, 2 points talking about Krypton. The history of how Krypton was doomed and why it was doomed is not something that is traditional. It's not about the red sun. It's not about, being taken out of its gravitational pull or any kind of internal quakes. It's about another alien species.
yeah, no, and the fact that Kryptonians themselves were kind of conquerors, so it's almost like they brought it on themselves
Mm-hmm.
that they were destroyed, which is something that got played with. I remember during that really weird time right after Infinite Crisis, where the Superman's history was in flux, and Busiek played with the idea that Krypton was like a race of conquerors and had set out into the universe, and then they backpedaled all that when they did New Krypton. But yeah, it's I like it as making this kind of distinct in on its own, and it's funny because I Krypton and the way it explodes is not something, as long as it explodes, I guess I should say, is not something I
Yeah.
get really upset about. I like different takes on it, whether it's just the arrogance of the Science Council and Superman the movie. I really dug in Man of Steel. The Krypton scenes are still the scenes that I like the best,
Mm.
almost, because it was such like that whole society and it breaking down, and the whole thing with Zod. I was like, okay, this is really kind of interesting. So as long as it's not, oh, it didn't blow up and we sent you away, I I think that idea, which they had played with in the Flyby script back in the early 2000s, as long as they don't do that, I'm pretty easy on Krypton.
Yeah. And the other thing was the Fortress of Solitude, or what appears to be a new Fortress of Solitude design,
Mm-hmm.
with floating kind of bits, was very interesting. But yeah, that was a unique take on that whole concept.
Yeah, it's like they keep introducing time honored portions of Superman. In this case, the Fortress of Solitude, and they're doing it in a way that kind of harkens back to the past, but still is very much a distinct idea in and of itself. It's like they're almost wanting to hint at it being crystalline, but it's not,
Mm,
which I was actually kind of thankful for because I'm kind of tired of that. In all honesty, uh,
yeah,
could just be me. I'm willing to be
Not you.
argued with on that.
not you, not just
Not
you.
you.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark, we haven't been able to include you in this. Obviously, not having
Oh
watched
no!
the
Hey,
episodes, But
My bad. But
no,
didn't get
all
it.
good, all good. So yeah, Michael, what would you give it out of as a rating for both episodes
I'd
together?
I definitely give the first episode a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give the second one a 9 out of 10 because the very necessary, oh, I've got to keep a secret from you. I can't tell you what's going on because, of how you're reacting. That takes it down to a 9, but still, n- nothing bad at all. But
Hmm.
I thought the season premiere was definitely the better of the two and a really solid way of bringing in the new season.
Yeah, indeed. So that's the first two episodes. And as you mentioned, Clark is now on the search for his cousin Kara, who was also sent to Earth via her father Zor-El, and just before Krypton exploded. And we don't know where she went or what happened to her spaceship, but there is a tracking beacon that Clark is now in possession of to try to locate her. And in an interview with Screen Rant, co-executive producer Jake Wyatt revealed that Kiana Madeira will be voicing the role of Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, in the upcoming episodes of My Adventures with Superman. We don't know when that will be, but we do know that she is coming, and it will be interesting to see just how she is voiced.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not familiar with who that actor is, but it again, I think maybe a little too soon for Supergirl, but it is what it is. So bring it on.
Yep, and I'm trying to come up with an image of the actress. I will bring that together as not somebody that I'm familiar with, but nevertheless, I will bring in a photo of that in a second. But Mark, your thoughts on bringing in Supergirl this early?
I think it's too early. Um, let's get. We still haven't established everything yet about this new Superman and Clark Kent and Krypton and all that. So I just think it's a little too soon. I think I would say wait till the third season. But like Mike said, we didn't know if we're going to get a third season. So,
Hmm.
but even so, I think let's see Superman, let's see Clark do his thing before his cousin comes on board and helps him. Not that I'm upset about it. Not that I'm not looking forward to seeing this version of Supergirl, but I do think it's definitely too early.
Yeah, well, Jake White in his comments said that the actress has been on Fear Street and a few other things, but she brings an incredible amount of charm to the character. The other thing we can say about Kara is that Clark and Kara classically have different relationships to Krypton, and that will be a lot of fun. So he says, also says about Krypton. Krypton is more complex than Clark decided it was at the middle of season one, and Brainiac is going to enlighten him a whole bunch about that. Brainiac is incredibly performed by Michael Emerson, an incredible actor, and we try to write him a Brainiac worthy of his talents. He does an unbelievable job, and we just really try to keep up. So there you have it. We've got upcoming episodes of My Adventures with Superman Season 2 airing at midnight on Toonami and Adult Swim, and available to stream on Max the next day. So there you go. Upcoming episodes. We mentioned the titles last week. We're looking forward to those episodes, and we will continue to review them for you. And don't forget that our reviews, or my reviews of the episodes, are up on our website. They're also available in podcast form, so you can look for My Adventures with Superman podcast by the Superman homepage to listen to the reviews if that is something you're more inclined to do. Kenneth Crowley Jr. in the comments says, I think it's the right time to bring in Supergirl in My Adventures of Superman Season 2. The character is more popular than ever. And that's a good point. We have seen a Supergirl in The Flash. We have seen Supergirl on TV in the Melissa Benoist TV series. We do know that a Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow movie is coming in the next couple of years. So, it is a timely reminder that Supergirl is, at the front of the Superman family at the moment, and doing, being pretty popular in recent years. So that is a good point. Thank you, Kenneth. Now, once again, whenever there is something Superman related, and we had this question asked last year in season 1 of My Adventures with Superman, people are asking again in season 2, will Batman make an appearance? please, folks, let's leave Superman alone and let him carry his own show. And thankfully, co-executive producer Jake Wyatt told theparentwatch.com that there's, they're always going back and forth with James Gunn and Peter Safran and Warner Brothers Discovery about the plans, what they're doing on the big screen, and how that relates to what they're doing on the small screen. Jake Wyatt says DC has been really supportive, though we've sent them our premises for all the material that we have created and are creating, and we've never gotten a hard no on anything we wanted to do. Batman is fraught. We're staying away from him. And if you remember, Josephine Campbell, who we're speaking to next week, said this is a Superman show. Superman is our hero. Superman and Clark are who we love the most, and it's who we've spent a couple of years writing now, so it's what we love. And hopefully that is still true for season 2, which we know that they were writing and doing already back then when we spoke to her. So if Jake White is saying that they are still creating material, then hopefully that means that they are going for a 3rd season. But thoughts on Batman?
No.
Thank God they're not
Just, yeah, we don't. Is this 2011? Is adding Batman to everything like the default thing now? It's just like it's like that old joke strip about Smallville. It's just like, what does this scene need? More Lana. What does the show need? More? It doesn't need Batman at all. There's allusions to Vicky Vale and Gotham City and all that, but that doesn't mean that. I think we really just need to focus on Superman as a character.
Couldn't agree more.
Maybe in its 6th season he can make an appearance, but that's about it. I love the guy. I love Batman, but I mean, enough with him and Superman. Unless it's their own, title, leave him out of it.
Yep, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, just because they mentioned Gotham and the fact that Vicky Vale is in it doesn't mean that we need to go down the road of having Batman make an appearance. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that they're not going down that way. But it was interesting to see Batman is fraught. We're staying away from him. Don't know what that means, but maybe because there's Batman material coming down the track with DC as well, that they're not sure what they're doing there, so they have to stay away from it. I don't know, but whatever the reason, I'm happy.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so that is My Adventures with Superman, Season 2, the first 2 episodes, and any of the details coming around about that. So keep an eye on our episode guide and our episode reviews up on the website for further details as episodes air. I was lucky enough to get a screener of the first 2, waiting for a screener of the next couple, hopefully, so that I can get my reviews up in time before the episodes actually air in any of the countries that we've mentioned. All right, we're just at the halfway mark of tonight's show. We're going to take a quick break and play some messages and then come back on the flip side to do This Week in History, our costume analysis of Brandon Routh's costume from Superman Returns. We've got the fan favorite segment and so much more. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back after these messages.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program. Just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman Homepage.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer. I'm the voice of Superman in Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Attention, Superman fans. Superman glasses are coming to Taco Bell.
That's right. Taco Bell is offering Superman glasses.
With exciting scenes from the movie. There's 6 of them. Every time you buy a medium-sized Pepsi-Cola, you can buy a Superman glass. But supplies are limited, so hurry down to your Taco Bell and start your own collection of Superman glasses.
Superman glasses, now only at Taco Bell.
We're back on Superman Homepage Live, where we're going to jump straight into the Super Secret Soundbite competition.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
Yes, there he was, Lex, and he was a reminder of, or he is a reminder of what the Super Secret Soundbite was from last month.
Clark. He was an infant when we left. The last son of Krypton. I was sent to protect him.
Yes, that was the sound from last month, and it was from the movie The Flash, with Kara referencing her cousin and what, his actual name here on Earth. But sadly, nobody guessed where it was from, so we don't have any Super Secret Soundbite winners this month, I should say. So maybe just people just trying to mentally black that film out of their memory. I don't know.
I was about to say.
Yeah, but no winners this month for the Super Secret Soundbite. So we move on and hope that we have more success with this Super Secret Soundbite for this month.
Well, Superman had a hunch that if he exposed himself to the full fury of an electrical storm, it might neutralize the radiations he'd absorbed. Well, it worked.
There you have it. If you think you know where in the world of Superman that sound comes from, go to the Superman homepage website at supermanhomepage.com. Under the contact menu, you will find the Super Secret Soundbite entry form where you can fill out the entry form and send in your answer. We will read out the names of each person who guessed it right when we return to the Super Secret Soundbite at the end of June. So get involved. All right, let's jump in. Yes, Mark.
To say just one thing. Speaking of Supergirl, it would have been nice if we saw Sasha Calle somewhere in the James Gunn universe. I mean, it was too bad that they they killed her off. Of course, that whole world doesn't really exist anymore. But I thought she was very good. She was one of the best things in that movie. So it was just I would have liked to have seen more with her.
Yeah, it's sad that it's a one and done type of situation with her, but it's the movie business, sadly, but that's probably where it's going to stay. All right, let's move on to the costume. No, let's do the fan favorite segment because costume analysis might go a little bit long, so we'll do the fan favorite segment right now. Here is our intro for that. All right, gents. Michael, what was our fan favorite question from last week?
What is your favorite Lois Lane comic book cover? And Christopher Butson wrote in first. He says, my favorite Lois Lane cover is Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane number 106. The cover and the story therein handles major social problems with grace and subtlety, such as that. Actually, it's Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane number 5, which offers a sophisticated commentary. Nah, just kidding. These are all really some wonderful Lois Lane covers from the Silver and Bronze Ages, but a more recent favorite is Action Comics number 965 by Clayman with a layout by Jurgens. I love the powerful stance and her supporting cast of men behind her. Yes, it's a Superman comic, but let's be honest, if we lived in the same world as Lois Lane, with or without a Superman, she would be the main character of our stories. And of course, the cover has all that violet, which for me personally has become essential to the character. Thank you for all you do. Have a great week.
Chris Foe is like playing with us there. He had these classic covers that he mentions tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, the fattest girl in Metropolis, and obviously the I Am Curious Black, very controversial covers, especially today. But thank you, Chris. Who's next, Mark?
David Rostich wrote, "There are a lot to choose from, and I couldn't contemplate leaving any of these out. I remember and love the stories that these covers represent as much as the artwork. They're all special to me in their own way. Keep up the good work."
Well, thank you, David. Yeah, some great covers there that he's picked out, and even a Wonder Woman one. Thank you very much. Next up, we had Alfie Falcitelli, who wrote this one cracks me up every time I see it, also because you would never see a cover like this published these days. Yes, and that seems to be pretty much the theme of some of these covers that we're looking at today. Some really interesting choices. So, yeah, thank you, Alfie. Next up.
Kenny Crowley Jr. wrote in and said, "Hey guys, here are some of my favorite Lois Lane covers. There was a lot to choose from, but here are some of the ones that I liked. Thanks, Steve, Michael, and Mark for all you do at the website and with the Superman homepage live."
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, some great covers there. A lot of familiar covers by recognizable artists. Superman 700 amongst them. And even the Earth Prime, Superman and Lois one. So thank you, Kenneth. And there's one more from Kenneth, the Superman Wedding album. All right, next up, Mark.
J.P. Rocha wrote, "My favorite Lois Lane cover is her wedding issue, covered by John Byrne."
There it is again. So thank you, JP, for that one. Next up, we have Lorenzo Valdez, who wrote, "My favorite Lois Lane cover is from Smallville Season 11 Special Number 2. This cover ranks number 1 for me because, 1, not only is it a Lois cover, it is also a Lana Lang cover that features both characters drawn in respective likeness of Smallville stars Erica Durance and Kristen Kruk. And 2, it is from my favorite Smallville Season 11 story, Valkyrie, which brings back Lana and provides Klarna shippers like me with a way to headcanon Clark and Lana getting back together again, as in this arc, Lana is purged of the kryptonite that she had absorbed back in Season 8. Well, thank you, Lorenzo.
Elliot Quadrado wrote, "Hey, Steve, Mark, and Michael. Keep up the great work. My favorite Lois Lane cover is the comic book cover to Action Comics 965 from 2016. Seeing her open the Daily Planet doors as she's about to walk through really showcased that the Lois we knew was back and ready to do her thing. I liked how she had to pose as her new 52 counterpart without trying to alert Perry, which had me hooked every issue. There was also the mystery and saga of who the fake Clark Kent was, which I remember fondly. Action Comics and the Superman title really came out swinging with Rebirth."
Yeah, it is an iconic cover, and that would probably be one of my favorites. I don't know about you gentlemen, but that is a classic one indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you to everyone. Is there one more, Mark?
Oh, no, we got more. One more.
No more? That's it? So
yes,
thank you to everyone.
One more.
Yes.
Ryan Ignatius Pratt wrote,
"Oh,
what an
Ryan's?
incredibly difficult decision it is to select a favorite Lois Lane cover. There have been so many great covers of her in recent decades, from the classic Adventures of Superman 525 by Stuart Immonen and Jose Marzan Jr., of her with Clark, to 1998's Superman Lois Lane #1, Girl Frenzy one-shot by Leonard Kirk. From more recent Rebirth era Action Comics 965 by Clay Mann, Tomu Mori, and Dan Jurgens, to 2019's variant cover of Lois Lane #1 by Jenny Frison. If I had to select one, though, as my favorite, it would actually be a non-Superman cover. The cover in question comes from Detective Comics number 756 by Dave Johnson, who beautifully renders Lois and Superman ready for action in Gotham as the iconic bat signal shines in the background. I have always loved this image and felt it would make a great poster. To me, it beautifully reflects a circle of characters that I believe to be the very foundation of comicdom itself. My apologies to Wonder Woman. As an aside, I'm thoroughly enjoying the Superman costume analysis series that Michael, Mark, and you have been wonderfully doing. Keep up the great work."
Thank you. Sorry I didn't have all those covers. Those images escaped me for a second there, but I'm just going to bring up that one you were talking about there with the Superman and Lois as your favorite one. So thank you very much to everyone who replied to the super secret soundbite. To the fan favorite question of our show tonight. Thank you for your responses. And Michael, what is our new fan favorite question for this month?
What is your favorite Jimmy Olsen comic book cover?
Yeah, so we've moved on from Lois now to Jimmy. So if you think you have a favorite Jimmy Olsen cover, Send your answer into info@supermanhomepage.com. Email us at that address, and we will show the covers of all your favorite Jimmy Olsen covers when we return to this segment next week. info@supermanhomepage.com. All right, so that is the fan favorite segment for this week. Let's move into our costume analysis, our series that we've been doing. This week we're covering Brandon Routh's Superman costume, and we will jump straight into that right now, looking at the Superman Returns costume from the... I'll just grab up the images now. Let's grab into... There it is there in all its glory. That was the first image that we saw of Brandon Routh in the Superman Returns costume back in the day, and it had a lot of detractors. It had a lot of people commenting about various different things that they did or didn't like about the costume, how small the S was, how brown the cape was, how small the shorts were, how long the body looked, all those kinds of things. We're going to go through it bit by bit. Let's start off where we like to usually start off with, and that is with the cape of Brandon Routh. First, looking at where it joins, it does come under the collar. It is a higher neck than we're used to seeing in some of the takes of the costume that we've talked about in the past, but at least does tuck in there under the collar and comes over the shoulders there pretty nicely. Your thoughts, Mark?
No, I traditionally like a brighter cape. It doesn't have to be that bright, but I when I first saw this, I remember my first impression was that it was a dull color. Doesn't mean it doesn't look bad. It was just, to me, it was dull. It wasn't it didn't pop like I thought it should, especially for this. This was the first Superman movie we had since '87. I was hoping for something a little brighter, a little more hopeful. To me, this just seems a little too dark.
Michael?
I just think, I like the length and everything, but I think the problem is that the dark red does not necessarily really blend well or go well with the blue of the costume. So it kind of looks off in a weird way. And that's kind of it's going to be a common theme throughout the entire commentary for me, is that there's just something off about just about every single aspect of this costume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the interesting thing, I saw this costume up close and personal, and was able to actually, touch it and see what the material was like and all that kind of stuff when they were here in Australia filming this movie. And it was interesting that the outer layer of the cape, like the outside, what we're looking at here, was very much like a, material that was like a pleather type of, plasticky feel to it. And then on the inside, it was very much a more vibrant red that actually had a felt type feel to it. So it was weird that both sides of the costume were different. Of the cape were different. I agree with you both, especially that there was something off about this. The blood red color of the red used throughout the costume, to me, was a disappointment. It came off as brown or muddy red in a lot of the scenes, and that was disappointing. So yeah, I do like the length of the cape. I do like how it sits, but the material itself I felt was a disappointment. It should have been more of a cloth rather than this leather-looking type material. But then we move on from the cape to the body of the costume, and I didn't mind that it had the kind of bit of a pattern through it, this diamond type pattern throughout it, which was like a constant in everything. You can see it there on the S shield. You could see it on pretty much every part of the costume. It kind of gave a bit of depth and texture to the costume without going the whole Man of Steel way where they did so much texture on the costume. So I didn't mind the color of the blue, and I didn't mind the fabric and the patterns on it. But Michael, I'm not sure what you thought about the actual body of the costume.
I felt the same way. I thought the blue was fine. It just didn't mesh well with the cape and the color of the S. I think my problem with the body of the costume, and it kind of goes along with the trunks, so I'm not trying to skip ahead, but it's just it just seemed like it wasn't proportional. Like it was, we didn't need, like hip hugger trunks for this Superman. And the collar seems to be like the middle ground. A lot of people are kind of annoyed with the high collar of the current costume that we're going to be getting next year in the movie, and then you have like that Dean Cain costume where it was just like a plunging neckline almost.
Mhm.
This seems to be kind of a mix on that. I think that works better, but no, I don't really have too big of a problem with the body.
Mark.
No, I like the color. I don't mind that it's textured. Again, like Mike said, when you look at the costume, with Ralph from head to toe, it's very long torso.
Yeah.
And going down towards the trunks, it just doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to. I don't know what the word is. Match for me. It just doesn't. It's not proportionate. Well, I don't know. I just I like the color. I like the texture, but all in all, I didn't love it.
Then there's the S, and here we've got a very prominent 3D. They tried to be a little bit tricky, a little bit clever with the way that the S snaked around. It almost has that, I don't know what the word for it is, but there's it tricks the eye because it starts one thing, but then that kind of ducks around underneath, and it gives it a very much a 3D look about it. And I think that was the reason that it had to be as small as it was. There was a lot of complaints about the size of the S, but you couldn't put such a big, solid emblem on a costume and expect it to bend around the chest if it was bigger. So I think that's why they had to go with the size of the S that they did. And the fact that there is that higher collar, or that the neckline is so high, it made it feel like it was a lot lower. And there's a lot more space above the S up to the neck. And so that also, and the fact that Brandon Routh just has a long swimmer's type body made the S feel like it was floating in a sea of blue. But again, there's that red color, and I'm happy that they went with that yellow background, and there's all those little S symbols, millions of them all over the place. But I didn't mind that it was 3D this way, but it had its issues being small, and because of the shape and design that they did go with.
Yeah, I hated it how 3D it was, actually. I'm kind of like on the exact opposite there. And not only that, they brought it into the comics as well, like immediately. And I was just like, no, I get that visually it's kind of interesting, but you were sitting there like, well, the reason why it's so small is that it was 3-dimensional and they had to do this. Well, I got a solution for you on that. Don't make it 3D. And then you can put it on the costume however you want. Now, I'm sure there was like a visual reason that Singer ultimately went with this version. Like maybe he just liked how it looked on camera. I don't actually dislike the design of the S symbol.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal for a long time there. That like if you would go online and search like Superman in the in images and Google Images, this would be the symbol that was the most common. But it is just way too small. I don't need like the Alex Ross stretching all the way across the chest version, but this it just looks so off.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I said to myself, "Wait, that's way too small. That's just way too small. I don't like it. I don't like the raised 3D. I don't like that either. It just looks like someone, just pasted it on there. I just, I've never. This is the one S I've never worn to. I just, in general, am just do not like it. I don't like the 3D image. Well, again, the design is fine. The S is fine in the yellow background. But I just thought it was way too small. And I don't like the raised image at all.
Yeah. So, and it's funny we kind of skipped on the cape. with this costume having S's everywhere, they didn't put one on the back of the cape. And I guess that's because you can't really put this big blocky 3D thing on the back of a cape. And if you do put a two-dimensional version on the cape, then people will say, well, why didn't you just do that on the costume? So it was an interesting choice there. Then we move to the trunks. And here we have, I guess they're kind of standard shape as far as the trunks. They're probably a bit more swimsuit trunk, like a Speedo type design, rather than being a little bit longer in the leg, as might have been more applicable in some of the other costumes. But it's the same red as we're seeing on the cape and everywhere else in the costume, so it did have that muddy red about it. But I think because the torso was so long, the fact that the trunks were a bit more Speedo design made the blue parts of the costume even longer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I absolutely hate that the S symbol is the belt buckle. I've never liked that look. Shane Davis would draw that into his version of the costume from that Superman Batman arc that came out shortly around the time of this movie. I think it's redundant. It's not necessary. Like Superman's not Batman. He's not going to brand everything, including his belt. And yeah, it's just they're Speedos. They're not trunks, and that looks kind of strange.
Trunks way too short. The S on the belt, I don't mind the way it looks, but I would rather not have the S on the belt. Just in general, it's way too short. Not that the trunks have to be, so you don't want them too long either, but it just, I just remember seeing this costume for the first time and just looking at all of this and just going, no. And the trunks was one of them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm with you with the belt. I didn't mind the S on it, but it was overkill. It didn't need to be there. I don't mind the shape of it. Even if they just went with that a shield belt buckle rather than an oval belt buckle without putting the S in the middle, that would have been okay. So I didn't have too much problem with the belt, but yeah, I agree with you on the whole trunks. And then we go down to the boots. Now, these were an element that I thought was, and seeing them in person, it was just like overkill. Like, what are these? Okay, it's got the dip with the V thing shape at the front, and it's got almost like a crossover feel about the texture there, the way that they've designed that element of the boot. But the heel and everything was just way too bulky. Again, when does Superman put these on? How does he put these on? Where does he keep them when he's Clark Kent? I didn't understand that whole, it just seemed way overkill. And then the fact that they put S symbols on the soles of the boots. Like, seriously, what? I mean, wow.
Well, that, and if you kind of put the two boots together, it's got like if you put them side by side, it's almost like there's a shield on the front part too. These are actually, in all honesty, outside of the symbols on the soles, which is, again, it's just like, what is he doing? I guess the Superman really wants to market the S symbol, and maybe that's just kind of a subliminal messaging. Like when he's flying, and if someone's behind him, they're going to see the S symbol, and that's going to make him feel good. It's like, how the FedEx logo has an arrow in it, making it, think you're going forward. They're the least offensive part of the costume, though, in all honesty.
Well, it almost looks like there's Velcro on it, that different texture. Like you pulled it over, to get that texture. Yeah, I don't like it. They're just they just look like workmen's boots, and not something that would be part of Superman's costume or a super alien's costume. It just looks like he bought them at at some discount store.
Yeah, I didn't mind the fact that where they came up, how high they came up on the heel, on the shin. It could have been a little bit higher, but all in all, yeah, I was just thought they were, like you said, workman's boots. They were a bit bulky. But as far as Brandon Routh is concerned, the hair, the face, obviously they chose him to be a Christopher Reeve lookalike to take on that persona. The one thing that I thought I didn't like, I mean, Brandon Routh has very straight hair, and they've really forced this S spit curl on his forehead. It was like, it looked fake. It looked made up. It didn't just fall naturally on his head the way it should. But all in all, look, I Brandon Routh is fantastic. I love him as a person. I've met him multiple times and had deep conversations with him about Superman, and got to interview him at length. And he is just the warmest, loveliest person. And I think he was given a tough job to try to, mimic Christopher Reeve's Superman, being from that same mold of, where the story was coming from. But just a lovely gentleman. The blue contact stood out as being a little bit weird, but I can't fault the person, but unfortunately I didn't feel like they did him justice with the look.
Yeah, hair is a little too brown. And I know Christopher Reeve had a similar thing in like Superman 3 and such, but it's in some pictures it doesn't look like that jet black. The eyes being as blue as they were, I actually think worked in favor of him, because it's not like they look alien, but they don't look completely human, if that makes any sense.
Otherworldly.
But he's got a cleft in his chin. He's got a good, strong jawline. I mean, he looked, like you look at that, you look, okay, that's Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, despite trying to get the Christopher Reeve look, I love Ralph. I love Brendan Routh. So everything I say about the costume has nothing to do with him. I really like him. It's just, the hair. I don't know. I do have a problem with the hair. It's not that bad, but it's like they were just kind of trying to force that spit curl. As if to say, well, Superman has a spit curl, so let's do this, and just didn't look right. But the hair's okay.
All right, so giving this an overall, I'm going to give it like a 6 out of 10 personally. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'll go 6 too.
I was going to go about 4.5.
Fair enough. Hard task.
Just to be, generous, I guess.
So there you have it. That is our Brandon Routh Superman Returns costume analysis. We'll keep going down the track and go up next. I think it's just Henry Cavill next with Man of Steel. And we will maybe touch back on some of the Superboy actors. We will look at Brandon Routh's other costumes from the Crisis on Infinite Earth. So we will look at different things as requested by some of the people who are tuning into this. But that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's Superman Homepage Live episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Superman Homepage Live. I want to encourage you to, we didn't get to talk about it tonight, but go to supermanhomepage.com and have a read of Michael Bailey's Superman Homepage. What did we call it? Like a look back, retrospective. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so a very cool retrospective with some interesting photos to look through. So make sure you check that out at supermanhomepage.com. But I want to thank our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everyone who tuned in for the last hour with us on Superman Homepage Live and participated there in the comments. We appreciate your company. Thank you to my co-hosts, Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Thank you, guys.
Pleasure as always, Steve and Mark.
Thank you.
Don't forget, next week we will be back with Josephine Campbell as our special guest discussing My Adventures with Superman Season 2. She's the co-producer of the animated series and will be back with us on Superman Homepage Live to discuss that next week. So that is on Monday, June 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey and Mark Lax. Thanks for joining us on Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.